Ulysses Martinez, tower side 72 with a 350 power plant, taking on Jason Yeager. And I believe 455 underneath that fiberglass hood of his. To Martinez, and Martinez away first, and Beach trying to get there first. He does.
Alright guys, hope I'm far back enough. Copper Cutlass here. I'm kind of flying it solo, so I got my camera propped up. And say hi Finnegan, dog's walking around here. So we went racing, left a little early on Friday from work. We headed out to Cordova International Raceway. Great track. They had a BOP race on Saturday, so we tested Friday night. I made 5 passes on Friday. The car ran really good. And then Saturday, we made 7 or 6 passes, I want to say. I lost a time slip. But all in all, man, I flogged the car and it ran great. You know, no noises, no knocks, no leaks, no anything. Everything stayed together. I think second gear in the transmission is starting to kind of go. But either way, the car ran the number. I think I have 9 passes where the car ran a 12.0 with like a 5 or a 6 and a 7, and the car was just running the number. I made 2 identical 1197 passes with the car, and then 112.42 where I ran out of fuel. I should have known that once I get towards 1/8 of a tank, fuel slosh, and the fuel sloshing in the fuel cell really becomes an issue because I have a flat sump. I don't have a drop sump on my fuel cell. So I'm sitting up on the staging at the beams, and I'm kind of loading up my Finnegan, get over here. He's sniffing my stand. So I'm sitting there, and I'm kind of loading up the suspension, taking the slack out of the drivetrain, bringing the RPM up before a launch, and I hear it start to break up, like pop, 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 and I'm like, oh, fuck. I knew exactly what was happening, so I'm kind of like just barely bumping the accelerator pumps to keep it like idling, so my idle was all over the place. I had like a 1 or a 2 something 60 foot, and I actually managed to run a 12.4, which was pretty good for running out of fuel. And then on the big end of the track, fuel pressure was like at 0. But the car did not pick up with the 4500 stall. There's a theory behind that, but I won't bore you because I haven't really looked into it. But I had a reputable person kind of clue me into why that change may have not worked. I think we should have seen something despite the weather. I think the car ran pretty good for the weather. I think on Saturday the DA was at about 3,000, which is it was in the 80s. So car fell off by about 1/10.5, which seems about normal with the weather. I really would have loved colder weather. Even at night there, it started cooling down. The car started getting really consistent, but I don't think it was there. So I think we might take the car back out again, and my game plan is to put my 3500 back in the car, put my 750 back in the car, and just run it, because I also ran the 850 Demon to no changes. The car ran the same, so but it ran consistent. So despite those two major changes, the car stayed on point. So at least we didn't hurt anything. We managed to go a couple of rounds. Well, I lost first round because I screwed up my dial-in. And then the second one, it was a double breakout. I ran slightly faster by like 1,000th. But it was a double breakout, so I took the win light. And then the other round was down to 100th. And it was a good race. He was closer on his number. And I was right there as well. Just he got it better all around. So either way, I had a lot of fun, man. A lot of fun. This weekend was probably one of the most fun times I've had at the track in quite a few years. I know we go out quite a bit, but it's usually business. Unload the car, make a couple passes, head out, go home. This weekend we were hanging out with friends, and just like last week, 2 weekends ago at Byron, had a lot of fun. This weekend was no different. A different group of people we were with, but people that I haven't really camped out and pitted with in a really long time. It was a lot of fun. So I think plans will be to wait for a lot colder weather to take the car back out. And I think the only thing I'm going to change, since I'm going to revert back to my 3500 stall and my 750 carb, I'm going to mess with the accelerator pumps again on my engine, because I think with me having those vacuum leaks in the past, which if you guys have saw my video where I changed the intake gaskets, I think my accelerator pumps on my 750 are small, on the small side now, because with the 850 Demon, I got the two pink pump cams and it runs really well. Super responsive off the line compared to the 750. And keep in mind, the accelerator pumps are what helps that transition, and it's going to make a difference in between how crisp it is. So I think I'm gonna play with the accelerator pumps on that carburetor, and I'm gonna put the Holley Blue. I do believe I have a top end fuel problem, a little bit, not a lot really. It feels like it, but then it's kind of hit or miss. But I'm gonna put the Holley Blue on there, and we're just going to take it out in better weather. We're going to plan for it and really try to get out on it. Here's the thing. I've never had that car out on the track under 65, 70 degrees. I've never had the car in that kind of weather. It's always been between 70. I think last fall when we ran, and even early June. In early June we went to the Grove. I think it was real nice air. Upper 80s, low 70s. We got the super nice last day of June, and we ran another string of 1180s. And the last two times we went out, when we went to Byron and then Cordova for their BOP races, the weather was not ideal in both situations. So either way, that's the name of the game. The car, Finnegan, what are you whining about? Sorry, my dog's in the background over there whining. Come here. So either way, the car hasn't really changed. It's running good. I've been beating the crap out of it. It's definitely going to come out this fall, and I'm going to go through it. I think I'm going to make a couple changes, nothing major, just mainly longevity items. I know Rocket Racing sells stock replacement I-beam rods, I believe. I think I'm going to look into that. And then I think that's really about the weakest link with the small block. I think the stock cranks are freaking good. Guys have said 550. I'm not pushing that, but the rods, I think in my case, are going to be the weakest point. But I might do a stroker crank, but I'm going to be the biggest idiot, because if my cylinder walls and everything's good, I'm not going to replace the pistons. I'm just going to replace the rods, the crank, and add studs to the mains, because right now it just got ARP bolts. And maybe add some cap straps, but really I don't think my combination warrants that. But again, this is all just thinking out loud at the moment. That build would take me a little bit if it warrants it. Again, it depends on what everything looks like in the bottom end. Car still runs good, so I assume everything's good. But I know early on while I was running the car, my tune was off, so I could have probably been beating the bearings up. I know the converter was probably ballooning, but I'm still going to throw it back in there. So, I mean, it all comes down to what it looks like. So, I think you were going to try to get it out one more time, and maybe twice. I don't know. October is coming up next week. And the rest of the year is going to move fast. We still have to get the Red 64 out to the track, which I don't know what weekend that's going to be, but it's got to happen because we're going to lose our window real fast. JJ has been kicking ass on it. I finally got the carburetor problem figured out, and it was a power valve gasket that probably had a tear when I cranked it. It split open, and fuel was just dumping through the cavity coming out of the base plate. So. Big props to Jim Cooper Fuel Systems. He gave me free advice, and big shout out to him for the help. Guided me in the right direction, saved me a lot of headache and money. That's where experience counts. I can rebuild a carburetor. I know enough about the circuitry to get them to work pretty good, but there's guys who know these problems when the carburetors are not doing what they're supposed to. They know where to go to. So big thanks to him, and for JJ to tell me, told me to talk to him. So on that note, guys, I'm gonna let you go. Still tired. Sunday, we got a really cool picture from the photographer. If you go to the track, always buy a picture. Those dudes are always out there taking pictures that work at the track, or photographers that are at the track. That's how they make their bread and butter. $20, you can help somebody out with their business, and you get usually a great picture. I'll post a better one up in the videos, but share, like, subscribe. We still plan on taking the Bonneville out too, so that's got to happen too. So I think I'm going to take the Bonneville out when we take the red car out to double up on that day, because it's going to be like a full weekend, I believe. And we still got to figure out schedules too. So I'll let you guys go. I'm sure I'm boring you by now, but share, like, subscribe. Follow me on Instagram, Copper Cutlass. See ya.